But here it is, Gareth Hunt. And I said I'm being biased, but I was actually joking because we've actually covered Garth in the past. He's a beast with Dread Mob. Shout out to the Army veteran here. Whoa, let's go. So that's why green is best he gets. And Garth knows all about that. So we have Garth's list. Let's take a look at this. It is the Dread Mob tried to bite. He does have some interesting changes. So even though we've seen this get in the past with this awesome gun line, this was a fun thing to see and a twist on his list. So we have Snikrot, Ghazghkull Thraka. Let's go. Zodgrod Wortsnagga. Ooh, we're seeing a bit of a pattern here. And then a Big Mek with shock attack gun with get finder goggles. Another 2 Big Meks with shock attack guns, followed by a baby Mek with smoky gummins. So this baby Mek unit, guys, he actually can enter a boy's unit if you didn't know. And that means he gives the boy unit access to the button, which means if the boy unit uses the button and Ghaz is using his crit 5 plus because of the wall or the strat itself, it means Ghaz's unit now has access to sustain 5 plus. So we have a pseudo warhorde here. Now, if you force it because of Dread Mob, they're all taking a hazardous chest. But if you just roll it out, there's a chance you can get lethal, and then that might be okay outside of the wall. So then we have a 120-man unit of boys, and then a 22-man unit of Gretchen, followed by a minimalist unit of Gretchen, and then 2 more 22-man units of Gretchen, which are battle on this detachment. 1 5-man unit of Flash Kits, 3 units of Lootas, all with custom Mega Blastas, and then 3 units with custom Mega Blastas, and then 3 units of Mek Gunz, which is funny because I did my tier list, and now Garth's trying to challenge me. No, they still suck. No, I'm kidding. But yes, he has been one of those crazy gits that has been using Mek Gunz this whole time when we didn't have tank buses, and as you see, he is still not using tank. Now, most people aren't familiar with this attachment, so I'll just try to summarize it. But I have videos on this and these combos and everything, which I'm definitely a fan of. But to start off, Zod in particular, though we have seen him in Warhorde and other detachments, and he has utility. In this detachment, what's funny about Zod is because the Gretchen have a reactive move, it means on the wall turn, Zod has access to a 12-inch react. Now, it won't come up. It might not come up for him at all in this his whole path to play victory. The fact that enemies have to think about this and sometimes actually work around it, because if you let a stupid 22-man size, well 22 size unit model reactive move 12, it can totally just disrupt a bunch of different like engagements and parts of the field that you control. So I think that's pretty awesome. Even though it doesn't come up, you definitely let the enemy know, and they'll think about it once in a while. That'll be a big factor in some matchups. Of course, Gift Finder Goggles is for ignore cover on the Lootas. Absolutely amazing. On Overwatch specifically is too. When you get any of these Luta units to actually access on Overwatch, it means whatever defensive ability the enemy has isn't going to be activated because it's not in the in any of the shooting phases. So therefore, you're just gonna have to take it to the face. And these guys are essentially shooting on their natural data sheet profile, hitting on 6s. So it ends up working out anyways in favor of that. Keep in mind when these guys do a shoot, they do have access to big shells for bigger gifts for +1 to wound and +1 damage. So they just put through some nice volume 3 auto cannons sometimes on enemies alongside these shock attack guns, which are just natively letting them reroll 1s to hit if they're not shooting on an objective. Of course, good for firing lanes. Again, a lot of range on this list. And then, like I said, with the baby Mek, that's what the baby Mek is. As for the 22-man units of Gretchen, completely underrated. Completely underrated because nobody actually wants to kill these things. And again, we have the reactive move, and it does matter when the 6-man unit can move again. When people try to come finish it off, right? Typically, they're not going to have the volume to just shoot it away. So then you're like, I'm going to reactive move into you can't shoot me again with whatever remaining of my unit or further away from your charge, and then I'm still going to OC bomb you with this stupid unit. I'm going to get in the way of your charges. I'm going to have a 5-up invuln on the wall. Actually extremely fun. And I think the big units of Gretchen are completely underrated for sure. And in my Dread Mob, they were common. The 5 flash kits, I think, is because he simply used to bring just a bunch of flash kits, and he just had more for points, in my opinion. And then as for the Mek Gunz, the sweet part. So Mek Gunz, kind of annoying, as I said that in some way, because how they changed the data sheet from rerolling once that it doesn't work on vehicles and monsters. So there is an argument that you could put a shock attack gun on these Mek Gunz and then use them in that way. I promise you, I've been doing that. I've done it before. Not doing it now. I'm just done it before. I tend to find the unit to be then too expensive, and then Lootas are too unreliable. But you could argue they could go either way. That you could with the Mek Gunz and put the shock attack guns with them, and then totally use them in that way too, because the Mek Gunz have the ability to utilize a strat to reroll the entire hit roll. So you could choose one of these Mek Gunz units, spend a CP to reroll the entire hit roll. Boom! Now this unit's kind of cooking. So you're gonna have sustain, you're gonna have a lethal, and you're gonna reroll the whole hit roll. But then they also can do big shells for bigger gets. So being a strength 9 smash gun, getting +1 to wound, and then making the smash guns going from strength damage 3 to damage 4 with big shells for bigger gets means you have a very fun, like long range anti-tank profile. So you stack these up, Lootas stack up, looking over cross-firing different objective markers, maybe even using one for reserves. Gretchen kind of holding your natural or even sometimes threatening your enemies. And then just really having Zod and Ghaz just blow up the middle of the field and up touching the enemies. And he just runs all the Mek Gunz. So I actually love to see it. Now, let me look at his actual path to victory. Now, he was on War Games Live. You can see the actual game where he lost. No criticism, no hate on that. Great job there, but we're still going to look at his path to victory. Because we get want to see shots to the chat. Whoa, let's go. Yeah, Garth party right here. Party on Garth. Let's go. Yeah. And I'm excited everybody's happy about this. Imagine he did good, 4-1 with this, and then the win rate overall was still like 39%. So it's hilarious. So first matchup, I won't spend too much time going through everything because I don't have notes from him, but we're gonna look at it. We have Blood Angels, double jump pack captains, a Judiciar, a lieutenant. Which version of Blood Angel? Liberator assault group. Okay. Double jump packs, 1 Judiciar, 1 lieutenant with Phobos, and then I said 1 lieutenant, and then there was friggin' 3, of course, right? Look at me. Space Marines chill out with. All right, lieutenant, and then lieutenant with Phobos armor, and then lieutenant with combi weapon, which is actually pretty fun to use. We have double impulsors, followed by 2 units of assault jump pack, 2 units of big 6-man unit of blade guard, followed by double lancers, 1 incursor, 1 infiltrator, and then 2 sanguinary guards, 1's a big unit. From what I've seen in these similar matchups, because of the amount of firepower and people have to play the mission, you just have so much damage 2s and damage straight shooting. Then it just takes a lot of stuff to dislodge the mobs of Grots and Zod and Ghaz, and then you're constantly just taking firepower. It's one of those things that they don't have enough dice unless they bring the full weight forward of their army, and then once they do, they're getting tabled. So 98-point win, and that's actually that list because me and Garth have spoke for what I believe in the past is from I remember, unless I'm mixing Garth's up, but I've also run this list after seeing it like a year ago though, so not exactly the same. It felt really good into power armor is what I'm trying to say here. Then we go into the next matchup, which is against a Raven Guard unit. So we have, it was written a little funky, you guys, but this was a Raven Guard Shadow Mark Talon. We have Sean. I'm gonna call him Sean, okay? Call him Sean. We have Caven Strike, Captain with Jump Pack, Lieutenant with Combi Weapon, double Devastator, a Squalt Squads, but one of them is a large unit, a Inceptor unit as a large unit of Inceptors. What was he carrying? It didn't say what he had, but I assume plasma. 2 units of Scouts, followed by a Vanguard Veteran Squad as a 10-man, and then a 5-man, an Invader ATV, and then a Storm Speeder Thunderstrike. So typically this army is like, I'm just gonna go all over the field. You're gonna have a hard time with my shenanigans and getting a hold of me. It's true for a lot of people, but this list is really good at never worrying about screening its own side of the field. And as it continues to march forward with the amount of bodies, this army is going to bring its full momentum forward at some point. It's going to have to nail itself down to just deliver the damage to the mobs, to the Gretchen, to the Zod. And then you also have Ghaz, which the whole WAAAGH simply relies on Ghaz and Zod yet again, which means when you get a leap and jumping forward pad of something they can get a hold of, you're going to have to commit. And when they have to commit, then you're dealing with a bunch of smash guns and Lootas, and the fights are happening on objectives because typically Orc players are having these fights on objectives to incur these sort of shooting contexts too. So it's pretty awesome. Not to mention you have overwatches that can happen here. Very uncommon things that are going to be available to Garth in this matchup that people are just simply not expecting from Orc players. I mean, maybe even one of those reactive movements from the Grots might be interesting. Like I said, I love having reactives, and in that kind of matchup, I think it would be interesting too. Then we move into, because with the 20-man units, not that it happened in this game, but the 22-man units of Grots, when they reactive move, because of how big the Bob takes up, you can kind of screen a little bit from jump pack units too. Just create like just a big pocket of you can't land here. 88-point win, great great job there. Then we go into the third matchup, which is against Space Wolves with Stormlance. We have Arjek Rockfist, Bjorn Fell-Handed, Lieutenant with Combi Weapons, and Logan Grimnar. I only say Bjorn correctly because I got bullied enough by my European friends, so thank you for that. We have Intercessor Assault Squad, double Assault Intercessor Squads, Infiltrators, some Reavers, 3 units of Thunderwolf Cavalry. One of them is only a 3-man unit. It's funny how this is laid out because there's a big, then small, then big, right? We all hate that, right? Then we have Vanguard veterans with jump packs, double those squads, followed by 2 big breaks of Wolfguard Terminators. This list is not, big brain. Right? And no offense. This is just straight, I'm a lot of meat, we're a lot of 4 bin volns, and we're just gonna take whatever damage you have on the chin and then run up in your face. The cool part about this, I think, adaptation of Garth's Warhorde list. Dread Mob list, which is so different than the Warhorde list, is the multi-phase potential of it, but you still get the best part of what everyone's teching into with Warhorde, which is I still get Ghaz, I still get Zod, I still pretty much declare the wall exclusively for them, but everything else in my list doesn't care about the wall, has stratagems that can benefit from him, and I have a bunch of just redundancy in this firepower that I have as well. That's very fun, and that means when you're dealing with these Space Wolves in this case, it means you're just constantly laying the dice on them, which is really challenging. The fact that typically they're really trying to counter efficient, low volume of high damage dice. They're saying, I'm just going to start taking these invulns, and I have too many wounds, so you can't get them through nicely. In this case, you're just like, here's 2 damage, 2 damage, 2 damage, 2 damage. Whoa! It just becomes fantastic. So 96 point win there, right? I love shooting Lootas at Thunderwolf Cavalry, for example, right? I'm like, I only have 1 AP anyways, bro. So I love it. Then we go into his 4th game, which is the one where he actually lost War Games Live, which against Tau Auxiliary Cadre. So Cold Star Commander suit, Cold Star Battle Suit, an Ethereal, double Ethereals, Crisis Knife Battle Suit, a Ghost Keel, Carnivore, double Kroot Rampagers, Torox Rider, a Pathfinder, double Riptide, double Skyray Gunships, double Stealth Suit, double Vest. So I didn't watch the game as meticulously as I've watched other games that I've seen on there, so I can't tell you the pivotal swing moment necessarily. But what I can say into going into this matchup is, one, Tau actually has okay trading potential and pieces with its tanks and its firepower. 2, the Mek Gunz didn't really seem to be going off in the game that I was watching out. So, Tau have a lot of stuff that they're willing to lose, we'll say, which means that they'll let you kind of try to take off on one of their tanks. And if this does happen then they're going to just start picking up whatever, try to respond to them. Then you also have the amount of chaff getting in the way sort of units as well. You have stealth suits that you're not going to necessarily be able to shoot away too easily, but they're going to be taking the midfield. Decent at chaff clearing and sometimes OC bombing, getting in the way with Vest Pit even potentially. And ultimately, these Kroot Rampagers give them something they typically lack, would be countercharges. But from what I could tell, it was still a close game. Dice sometimes tell games and dictate games, and sometimes Dread Mob just be Dread Mobbing, where it doesn't actually do the thing it's been doing consistently over and over again, which is from what I was paying attention to and seeing what was happening on that War Games Live event. So it was actually pretty awesome when I was watching. It caught everybody in the world, that was watching at least off guard, that they're like, dang, Orks are out here with with the Dread Mob. But yeah, it was a good game, and ultimately I think people that are really interested in watching War Games Live, exactly how it was going down, and they ended up losing in the nutshell, but as a whole. But yeah, it sometimes goes, I think it was also Purge off the top of my head. I should actually have written that down on how I messed that up. I'll go look through and make sure I see that. Then we go into the second last game that actually makes a comeback for, which against the Drukhari. So which is actually a tough matchup overall. Like not every Orc army or whatever, but it's a respectable detachment. A faction currently. In my opinion, I think it can go a long way. I think that in the right player's hands, and I think people should be aware of it, and they're going into the matchup, that it can actually counter Orcs. But and it's not something I would say that was always the case personally. So cool. We have Drukhari, we have an Archon, Lady Molest, Slilax, Succubus, 1 Cabalite Warrior, some double Witches, a Raider, triple Venom, triple Hellions, a Mandrake, double Reavers. Sorry, is it double or triple? Triple Reavers, but one is a minimum size unit, and then double Scourges. I guess they got rid of those Beastmasters and stuff. I don't know, pay attention to that recently. I'm not sure the exact meta of these gets, but pulled an 80-point win there. I think when you actually have a bunch of stuff that they have to dig through, plus you have the firepower to clean them after they do their thing, because they're relatively squishy. And then in a pinch, you could end up getting the Lootas to run up and start getting in the fight too. So I can see how this was a decent matchup, and you don't have to be in combat and taking fights first or taking battle shock tests and then hoping that you get to do your automatic combos of fight on death against these drukhari and getting the trades you would typically want into the melee matchup. So yeah, I think that that's why it could be overlooked sometimes as like, oh, this is a good matchup for Orks, but there's a lot of dice rolls that come into play in these games if you're doing like a typical Warhorde matchup, and I think that's what's the cool part of the strength of his list right now, being a multi-phase I can play with shooting and dakka sort of thing. So great job there. And then we go into his last game. Sweet Lou. We have World Eaters Demon. So we have a Demon Prince of Khorne, Karn the Betrayer, Lord on Juggernaut, a Scarbrand, and a Slaughterbow. One Bloodletter unit, one Time unit of Khorne Zerkers, a big brick of Skull Crushers, one Chaos Spawn, one Exalted, one Forge Fiend, a Hellbrute, and then double unit of Jackals. So I haven't played against this attachment in a while, but I think from what I remember, Dreadmob does pretty well because pretty much I only fight kind of army, and once it's exposed, you kind of dictate. You do have to be careful of something like a Hellbrute, for example, which will fight through a unit and then continue to fight through multiple units. But that's where like a stupid, Gretchen comes into play, or taking advantage of a reactive move, not letting these people get a hold of you, and then you just have good multi-phase potential into them. So I don't think too many wrinkles into that game from the changes that detachment took. But 86-point win there. So shout out to Mr. Garth and his Dreadmob list. Absolutely love to see it. He did have 10 points left over for anybody who's looking to adapt or integrate that list into what they play. Really cool to see those tech pieces and those tools. I think he did a great job overall, and even at the event, everybody was talking about it overall and like telling me about, oh, look, there's this Dreadmob player, crazy Dreadmob player that's going on right now. So yeah, I thought Orks were just sick in that way, that it's funny because you'll not hear or see a detachment for a long time, and then boom, it just pops out, starts going off, taking out people's left and right. It's just, making appearances, and then people are like, what the heck is that thing? I've never even seen that detachment. And then it'll just go away, and then that crazy Ork player that you've seen will just not appear again, and you just won't know where that list came from. And that's kind of who Garth Brooke is in himself, and him and his Dreadmob. So thank you for that. Another thing to check out is our sponsor, the Baron of Dice. They make high quality custom dice. If you enjoy our content and want to show some love, check out the Baron of Dice custom dice, including Wall Tactics official dice. To support us, use our discount code in the description for 5% off, because nobody likes taxes. If you enjoyed the clip, check out the full video here. If you'd like to see more tactics, click here.
Let's get stuck in, lads!